First of all, why is the radical right going after Taylor Swift? And the answer to that is, I think, somewhat obvious. It is that going after Taylor Swift gets them attention. End of discussion. Think about how many people are now talking about them and their reaction to Taylor Swift. It's what's called earned media, which is a term that you use in when you're in the media, and it means that you don't have to pay for advertising. It means that you have created enough of a story that people call you and they want to report on it. So one of the reasons that the radical right says these outrageous things and goes after, creates these crazy things like CRT and DEI and all these attacks they go on, is because it gets the media. And certainly what they're doing is they're hitching themselves to Taylor Swift's star and saying outrageous things about her and complaining about her because it gets them headlines. And so for today's Republican Party, there's a couple of things going on. There is partly the attempt to get eyeballs on what you're saying so that you theoretically could get elected. But in some case like this, it is probably more likely that this is part of what I would consider the right-wing grifter machine that simply wants a lot of clicks, because you get money if you get clicks. And that's something that I don't study, and I actually keep threatening to chase down some of my friends who do deep dives into investigative journalism, because I would love to know how much money there is behind some of the grifts that we see around us. Because you look at some of the real headline people out there, and I guess it's, well, I guess I won't say any names, but there are certainly people who say outrageous things and then sell supplements, or say outrageous things and then translate that into huge amounts of money. And so I think partly they're going after Taylor Swift for the clickability of it, and also because she is, of course, much more outspoken now about her dislike for Donald Trump and about her support for Biden, and that, of course, is attractive to younger people who follow her, and I don't think just younger people who follow her. By the way, I actually happen to think that she's a really interesting cultural phenomenon as well as a musical phenomenon, in that she has created over the course of the last summer a multicultural, multiracial, and multi-generational movement. And those movements don't necessarily have to be explicitly articulated to be behind a certain kind of politics, so much as to remind people of the values that the people who are attending them grapple. So, when you're out at a concert with your mom and your sister and your best friend, you're thinking about community, you're thinking about friendships, you're thinking about kinship ties, you're thinking about the sorts of values that currently support the Democratic Party. And if you're going to a Unite the Right rally, you're thinking about hatred and those sorts of emotions that unite that particular group of people. And so to have the kind of tour that she had, enforcing those sorts of values, even if she was singing about haters, for example, or the many things she sings about, I think is an existential threat to those people who oppose those values.
That was conducted said that 18% of people were more likely or significantly more likely to vote for somebody that Taylor Swift endorsed. 1 out of 5. Okay, now realistically, this polling is probably not accurate. That is a wild number. I have a very hard time believing that's really the case. That being said, I'm willing to bet that it's 1 in 20, which that's enough to swing an election. That is enough to create a pretty significant point swing. So the takeaway from this at this point is to acknowledge that all of the attacks on Taylor Swift, they are political, and the reason behind it is that the Republican Party is afraid that young people will vote. That's why they're going after her. That's why they're creating the imagery they are. That's why they're calling her a Pentagon psyop. It's worth remembering that for decades and decades and decades, people who are singers, musicians, performers, most people in the public eye, have had sway over politics. The concern for the Republican Party and why they are responding the way they are is because Swift has the ability to motivate younger people. Younger people trend against the Republican Party in a substantial way. So that is what's driving this. An endorsement from Taylor Swift is realistically, it is more valuable and more powerful than an endorsement from Trump. And her endorsement would be worth something after the primary. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.